What's up, YouTube? This is your friendly neighborhood movie nerd, back to give you guys everything that's going on in the world of movies and TV, and I'm back, people. After a long month and a half with no top 10 list, I have returned along with some striking news. Disney is officially abandoning the movie theaters. That's right. Choosing to focus a majority of their efforts on the Disney Plus content now, it is certainly a major power play as far as studios and the future of visual entertainment is concerned. And with The Mandalorian Season 2 currently underway and serving to fill the hole that most of us are feeling right now, entertainment-wise, I decided to do another Star Wars Top 10 list. In honor of my first ever Top 10 list on this channel, today I will be looking at some of the best Star Wars moments. While these may lead up to or be a part of certain of the lightsaber fights I mentioned in my previous list, these will not actually be the lightsaber fights themselves. They'll be moments specific to me as to what hits the hardest emotionally, contributes the most to the overall story, and just serves to reinforce why Star Wars is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, media franchise of all time. These are my top 10 best Star Wars moments. Ig11 Saves the Day. The Mandalorian. It says a lot about this show that it was able to make this big an impact upon initial release, especially since it bridged the gap between two of the most maligned Star Wars films. And despite its simple nature and maybe a little bit too much emphasis on a certain obvious marketing ploy, The Mandalorian delivered on its premise as an official space western. And what would a western be without a good old-fashioned showdown? Trapped in a cantina and cornered by the newly revealed Moff Gideon, Din Djarin, Cara Dune, and Greef Karga are saved in the nick of time by the reprogrammed Ig11 droid due to a couple of dumb stormtroopers' refusal to comply with its orders of protecting the child. But it doesn't stop there. The droid rides into town, mowing down trooper left and right, and buys the group enough time to escape through the sewers to safety. And to top it all off, it T2s itself by blowing up and taking out the last group of stormtroopers so that the group can get away. This show pulled off a home run for its finale, and Ig11 quickly became a fan favorite, and it helps that Taika Waititi, in addition to directing the episode, lends his voice to Star Wars' latest fan favorite droid. I can almost hear him telling Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni that if they wanted him to direct this last episode, that his character would have to be the one to save the day, and he completely does. And as if that wasn't enough, he also helps Din on the next stage of his journey by being the only one being in the entire show to see him without his helmet, and allows him to maintain his vow by not actually being a living being. This is the way indeed. The Battle of Scarif. From Rogue One, a Star Wars story. Rogue One is a bit of an interesting entry in the Star Wars canon. Focusing on the efforts of a small group of ragtag rebels to secure the eponymous plans to the newly created Death Star, the film received praise for its battle sequences and mature tone, but criticisms for its seeming lack of focus, overindulgence in fan service, and lack of character. While the majority of that is up for debate, the one thing that cannot be argued is that the battle sequences, specifically that of the final battle on Scarif, are some of the best that have ever been put to the screen. The scene begins with the use of a Star Wars plot device we've seen a million times before, continues as an infiltration heist amidst the backdrop of a distraction battle, and ends as a full-on war in what was the first full-fledged attack by the Rebellion in the Empire era. A combination of old-school blaster fights on the beach with the aerial dogfights in space provides the perfect ticking clock as Jyn Erso and Cassian Andor struggle to retrieve the one thing the Rebellion needs in order to make a dent against the Empire. I always like to give this movie credit for this kind of tactic because forget Star Wars, this is the first time I think I've ever seen Disney make a move like this for one of their big movie franchises, since they largely specialize in family-friendly entertainment. The other reason why this battle is so memorable is because in an era in which audience members have become so desensitized to incredible visual effects and spectacle-driven entertainment on the big screen, this managed to reinstill that sense of wonder by giving us some of the best dogfights and intercut battle sequences yet. It truly does live up to being Saving Private Ryan in space, providing for one of the darkest and most enthralling battle scenes on the big screen Star Wars verse yet. The Invasion of Mandalore. From Star Wars The Clone Wars. I've already talked a lot about the existence of the final season of the Clone Wars animated series, as well as how many incredible moments it gave us. But one of the less talked about things from the Star Wars animated series that are still so impressive are the battles, which is a real shame considering it's given us some of the best put to screen yet. But the creme de la creme came in the final 4 episodes of the most recent season, with Ahsoka Tano teaming up with Captain Rex and the 501st, as well as Bo-Katan Kryze and her remaining group of Mandalorians to wrest control of Mandalore from Darth Maul. The animation is turned up to 11 here, giving crisp, detailed, and always moving frames as Ahsoka and the clones fly through the air and blast their way into the city. The entire invasion is fraught to the gills with tension, with Ahsoka unknowingly racing against the clock to learn the secret of the Sith before it's too late. It still never ceases to amaze me Filoni's depth and breadth of every facet of the Star Wars canon, because his battle sequences carry so much subtext that echo throughout the rest of the series. But the true power in this scene, and really throughout these last 4 episodes, is the slow, nails-on-a-chalkboard-esque tension that comes from the inevitability of Order 66 on the horizon, which allows for some amazing character moments, some even better action, and a cathartic resolution the likes of which Star Wars desperately needed, especially at this point. The visual imagery, despite its animated style, only serves to accent the battle, which rages from the skies above Mandalore to the city itself, clones and Mandalorians fighting together in a moment that had been talked about and hinted at by almost everyone working in Lucasfilm Animation as one of the few tremendous moments that never made it into the original run of the Clone Wars. It's a sight to behold, it added yet another layer to what Star Wars could do when it came to battles, and it hit all the emotional beats, especially since it proved that above all else, Ahsoka Tano was back and ready to do some damage. The Throne Room. from Return of the Jedi, easily the most compelling part of the final installment of the original trilogy. Despite criticisms towards Return of the Jedi for its return to a more kid-friendly tone and familiar story beats, the final throne room confrontation between Luke Skywalker, Darth Vader, and Emperor Palpatine has largely become known for its incredible gravitas, as well as the way in which it weaves and intermingles itself throughout the two separate battles being fought simultaneously on Endor and the second Death Star. With Han, Leia, Chewbacca, and their small band of rebels and Ewoks fighting a losing battle against the Imperial forces, while Lando and the rebel fleet are sitting ducks in an invasion force that is waiting for them, Luke, who surrendered himself to Vader in the hopes of reawakening some good in his father, is instead brought before the Emperor himself and is forced to watch as all good in the galaxy is seemingly extinguished before his eyes. Despite the Emperor's goading, he refuses to play, at least until he tempts him with the option of striking him down. Playing right into his hands, Luke summons his lightsaber, forcing his father to ignite his, and their second duel begins. It's so tricky for a scene like this to work and not feel ridiculous or forced, so the props really do go to Lawrence Kasdan, who magnificently handles the weight of Luke's feelings towards his family with the ever-growing presence of the dark side, always emphasizing just how desperate the stakes have grown for both the Rebel Alliance as a whole and for Luke. Gone are the days of the plucky young farm boy who wanted to be a part of something bigger. Now he is the last Jedi, facing down the full wrath of the dark side, as well as the knowledge that he will most likely have to kill his father in order for there to be any hope for the galaxy to survive. Despite almost giving in and hacking his father to pieces, he manages to regain himself at the last second, proudly declaring to the Emperor that he is a Jedi like his father before him, and that he will never turn to the dark side, leading to Palpatine bombarding him with Force lightning. No longer able to bear his master's evil with his son in agonizing pain in front of him, Vader finally regains some sense of himself and chucks his master down into exhaust port, finally ending his reign of terror once and for all, or so we thought. However, it is too late for Vader, who dies in Luke's arms shortly thereafter, but not before Luke finally manages to see his father's true face. Anakin Skywalker's one last true act of redemption complete. The Opera House from Revenge of the Sith. One of the most underrated scenes in a movie whose perception has certainly changed in the last couple of years. Despite the prequel movie's much maligned nature, Revenge of the Sith has almost taken on a second life of sorts in recent years due to its ties to the greater Star Wars universe, the unexpectedly dark tone, and plot developments after two obnoxiously obvious kiddie fun movies and a surprising amount of subtext. This is one of those scenes. Anakin Skywalker is full of conflict and turmoil in this film, still not being taken seriously or trusted by the Jedi Council despite his years of service in the Clone Wars, and has now been tasked to spy on Chancellor Palpatine due to the Jedi's mistrust towards his ability to stay in office long after his term is ended. In his continued twisting and manipulation of the young Jedi, Palpatine invites Anakin to an opera show, in which he reveals that he is aware of Anakin's mission and also tells him a story about his own master, Darth Plagueis the Wise, a Sith Lord so powerful that he could even supposedly conquer death. Due to his own premonitions about Padme's impending childbirth and death, Anakin falls hook, line, and sinker in a scene that is very mysterious and a lot more unnerving than it deserves to be. And probably the most brilliant thing about this scene is that even taken at face value, it doesn't feel like exposition to further the plot along. It feels like someone just telling a scary ghost story, which, when done right, can be a great way to describe the theme. In a movie that is already dripping with foreshadowing as to the doom that's on the horizon, Lucas truly does pull out all the stops, with the visual bubble show providing a great backdrop to the next in a series of steps that eventually lead Anakin to become Darth Vader. It's sinister, mesmerizing, and haunting all at the same time, and it's one of many scenes that has allowed for many to give Revenge of the Sith a second chance in recent years. Han Solo returns from The Force Awakens, the moment that solidified Star Wars' return to the big screen. 2015 truly was a magical year, both for containing the second Avengers movie as well as soft reboots for Jurassic Park and Rocky, but the true staple was the build-up to the first live-action Star Wars movie in 10 years, and this was the scene in the trailer that had both die-hard and new fans alike cheering for the return of everyone's favorite smuggler and his trusted Wookiee sidekick. On the run from stormtroopers and attempting to protect BB-8 in his mission to return to the Resistance, Rey and Finn commandeer what is described as a junker ship from Unkar Platt's junkyard, which of course turns out to be the Millennium Falcon. Piloting it into space, they are picked up by a bigger haul ship, which is revealed to be piloted by the one and only Han Solo, who proudly declares,
"Chewie, we're home,"
firmly solidifying that he is back on a ship and back in this franchise. It was the moment that told Star Wars fans that the franchise was back, but more than that, it revealed that Star Wars still had a beating pulse and, at the time, new stories to tell. Despite the severe malignance caused by the sequel films, the amount of goodwill and excellent fan service in this film cannot be stated enough, and the reactions of Finn and Rey as the audience avatars reacting as how we, the fans, would if we met one of these idols in real life is part of the reason why this film still holds up as well as it does. Vader Goes Ham from Rogue One, a moment that fans have been waiting for years. Darth Vader has been solidified as one of the greatest villains in movie history. There's no question of that. With that being said, his badassness mostly came from his imposing presence and the smooth, silky, menacing quality of James Earl Jones' iconic voiceover performance. But the simple fact is that the original Star Wars movies did not have the technology to show off his fighting prowess, so they had to rely on his presence, and rightfully so. But with the revelation that the Sith Lord formerly known as Anakin Skywalker would be appearing in the first Star Wars anthology film, fans eagerly awaited for a scene, a minute, a frame, anything that resembled what so many books, comics, and video games had shown him to be capable of. With the loss of the Battle of Scarif, the transmission of the plans, and the desperate attempt to evacuate underway, the rebels are cut off by Vader's ship just as they are about to make the jump to Lightspeed, and This scene that paid homage to movies like Alien, with enough horror and suspense to make even the most steadfast fans squirm. Vader ignites his lightsaber and mows through an entire hallway of rebels in his attempt to get the plans before they are taken out of his reach, proving why he is the thing that everyone in the galaxy fears. In the end, the rebels are able to get the plans to Tantive 4 and have it take off literally just in time to head for Tatooine and begin the events of A New Hope. But this scene reinforces how desperate the attempts for the plans really were. The shot composition, score, sound mixing, choreography, and acting were all on point here, solidifying the reputation that Vader is not just a complex figure we spent over 40 years getting to know, but a terrifying and badass presence as well. I am no Jedi from Star Wars Rebels. Another moment that was years in the making, but for a whole different batch of reasons for a whole different generation. Well, the majority of the people who were waiting for the Vader moment in Rogue One were fans of the extended Legends canon that was retconned out of existence. Fans of the Clone Wars animated series were both shocked and in awe when fan favorite character Ahsoka Tano returned to the franchise at the end of the first season of the first Disney-produced Star Wars animated series, Star Wars Rebels. But with the return of Ahsoka also came the return of Vader, which meant that at some point the two were going to square off. The other thing to keep in mind is that at this point, the final season of the Clone Wars had not been conceived of yet, so fans only had the final encounter of Anakin saying goodbye to Ahsoka when she chose to leave the Jedi Order in the 5th season finale as their last scene with the two of them. But even that scene just makes this reunification in the Season 2 finale, Twilight of the Apprentice, even more gut-wrenching to watch. I already talked a lot about the scene in my top 10 Star Wars lightsaber fights video, so I'll keep it short, but it's safe to say that just from an emotional standpoint, this scene hits home. Faced with something she'd been trying to avoid all season, the fact that her master, her best friend and mentor who'd been by her side since day one of the Clone Wars, was responsible for a majority of evil that rocked the galaxy in this new era. Ahsoka squares down with Vader, and right before they lock blades, Ahsoka utters something that frankly was the biggest missed opportunity for the new trilogy of films.
I am no Jedi.
Harkening back to such amazing defying authority moments like the Eowyn killing the Witch King moment from Lord of the Rings, Ahsoka here officially makes her stance clear that she is not on anyone's side but her own, which is the side of good, putting her in stark opposition to her former master, who has fallen so far from the ideals he once stood for. It plays into easily the greatest theme that Star Wars has always stood for, that of the little person, the inconsequential one who exists on the periphery, that they can get involved in the nonsense of the real world and actually make a difference. And this moment is still one of the best when it comes to presenting that. Order 66. From both Revenge of the Sith and Star Wars The Clone Wars. This is an interesting event to tackle, but a momentous one to say the least. The biggest thing that it has going for it is that, to my knowledge, it's the only major Star Wars event that takes place in two separate visual mediums, which I don't think I can say about anything else on this list. But for reasons that should be beyond obvious, Order 66 is so well known and one of the biggest Star Wars events for being the sole turning point within the franchise, and arguably the saga as a whole. It's the ultimate entanglement, the sole greatest story turn thread that George Lucas came up with, the whole thing that the prequel trilogy was building towards. The final and ultimate act of betrayal by the clone troopers, specifically bred and designed to assist the Jedi as their weapons of war, as they turn on each and every one of the Jedi, one by one, and gun them down without any remorse, completing Palpatine's ultimate diabolical plan of total galactic usurpation. It showed that Star Wars had come full circle, reaching an interesting point within the story and completing the transformation from the Galactic Republic to the Empire. And the crazy thing is that because of the vastness of his vision and his incredible foresight, Lucas, along with Dave Filoni, was able to broadcast that same event years after its conception, as we see the flip side of the devastating act in the final 4-episode arc of the Clone Wars, with Ahsoka Tano, despite having left the Order years ago, facing the same devastating betrayal due to the presence of the clone's inhibitor chips discovered by Fives in Season 6. The crazy thing about this twist is that it's so good that there's no way that it doesn't benefit the audience, particularly those who felt betrayed by the prequels. If you love the Jedi, then this is a gut-wrenching betrayal and a beyond surprising twist. But if you hated the Jedi and complained about how boring they were, then you get to see them all gunned down to make room for the Star Wars you love. It was their Empire Strikes Back moment after Empire Strikes Back had already happened. So 2 Empire Strikes Backs for the price of 1. It was an incredible event that only a truly evil genius like Palpatine could have engineered, and if not for my number 1 choice, it would be the single best Star Wars event. Before we move on to the number 1 pick, here are some honorable mentions. Luke, I am your father, from The Empire Strikes Back. Once again, another obvious one, I feel, but come on, you can't be a Star Wars fan and have not heard about this moment. Forget, you can't just be like a person living on this planet and have not heard about this moment. It's literally impossible. This is the moment when Star Wars officially became Star Wars. No, okay, not really. That was the Death Star exploding, but still. Empire Strikes Back has cemented its place in cinematic history by taking a rather grandiose, rather basic hero's journey and breaking it down to its knees. Characters separated over tracks of time, space, and circumstance, chased by enemies, dwindling hope, betrayal, revelations, and more. But when Luke Skywalker receives a vision of his friends being tortured on Bespin, he makes the mistake of falling for Vader's trap and heading right for them, unaware that they are being tortured for the sole purpose of luring him there. Trapping him in a room full of carbonite, Vader duels Luke in a fight where he eventually tires him out, corners him, and lops off his hand. And then in a move that shocked the world back in 1980, pre the internet,
I am your father.
The thing that makes this moment still so iconic to this day is that it's one of the moments that completely recontextualizes the audience's understanding of events leading up to that point. From that moment on, Star Wars is no longer a story about a scrappy group of underdogs trying to take down a seemingly unstoppable machine. Now it's a story of family legacy and attempting to right the wrongs of the past. Wrongs which audiences weren't even yet aware of. These types of twists have been so done to death now that they're the latest in a long line of movie trends to fall victim to memes. But I don't think there was quite a twist like this beforehand. It was emotional, it was shocking, it was incredible story development, and it was just pure Star Wars. Star Wars is a franchise based around family lineage, for better or worse, but this was the one that started it all, which is what makes it the best Star Wars moment. And that was it, people. Those are my top 10 favorite Star Wars moments. What did you guys think? Whatever your thoughts are, let me know in the comment section below. Also, be sure to click that like button and that subscribe button. Also, click the bell next to that subscribe button. That way you guys get notified every time we put up a new piece of content. Guys, we have been putting out a lot of content recently. We've gotten a lot of subscribers in the last couple of months, and we hope to keep on going. So thank you guys for showing your support primarily overall. And be sure to tune into Mando Watch every Friday night at 8 o'clock. We will be recapping the new episodes of The Mandalorian as they drop progressively on Disney+. It's a lot of fun. Thank you guys once again for tuning in to yet another incredible top 10 list. Make sure you follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Talkin TV Podcast No G. And as always, people, watch more fucking movies.